So we've explored the different facets, and now what we're going to do is look at the whole profile together. So this sheet here is quite a good one for looking at your extroversion, introversion, sensing, intuition, thinking and feeling, and judging and perceiving. So when we look at your profile, what we can see is that your facet behaviour on the extroversion and introversion is clearly in preference. So the way that you are likely to express your introversion is as a typical person with an introverted preference. Right. We've already talked quite a lot about the intuition and you being clear on your intuitive preference, and although you can do sensing, it doesn't fill you with joy, and you can, I think your expression was, you can have a few tantrums there if you need to. We've talked about thinking and feeling, and very clear that you have a feeling preference, but where you're possibly slightly, where there's a slight difference is that you're more likely to question and challenge things that are important to you. And then on the judging and perceiving, that you have clearly in preference in terms of your the judging preference, but this one here, the methodical emergent, is another one where you would be scoring in the mid-zone. So questioning, accommodate, we talked about being in the mid-zone, and this one being in the mid-zone.
Right, okay.
And if you remember from our discussion, this one was about, if you have a task to do you plan for that task before you start it, or do you just kind of dive in and see where you end up? And we talked about whether that if it was something you're familiar with, you're more likely to just get on and do it. But if it's something unfamiliar, then you may well plan it and think it through carefully and read the instructions before you start.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it does make sense. Absolutely.
Yeah. So if we think about your preferences coming out as somebody who is clear in their INFJ, and think about the role that you're currently doing, how well do you think that suits you as an individual?
I think, or I've been thinking recently that I would like to be able to have this sort of, I suppose, for want of a better phrase, creative side of me that thinks outside of the box. Have that maybe appreciated more, because I don't feel that my role allows me to do enough of that. And certainly, as I was saying before, recently that seems to have changed as well. It's I was filled with much more excitement, and that might be to do with the fact that, you know, I do like change. I do like you know, to keep myself challenged and be faced with new challenges, you know, on a regular basis. So it might be that it may just be that I've been in the role for longer than I like to, but yeah, I do feel that I feel like a change is imminent, and that I'd like to find something where I can use my imagination more. Yes, and that I can think of ideas. So something where I can use my ideas in a creative way and have them recognised. So I'd love to be able to do something like that. I'd still like to work within the charity sector, because I do enjoy helping other people as well. So, you know, if I can combine those, that would be wonderful.
Yeah. And when we were exploring, there's obviously the world outside of where you currently work, and where might you target, who might you apply to in order to change direction or change organisation. But there's also the element of within your current organisation, because of the changes that are happening, maybe there's room for you to explore other options within that organisation. Because clearly when you've been speaking, you're very passionate about the organisation and the work you do. And when I noticed particularly when you were talking about the volunteers and supporting the volunteers, that was something that clearly inspired you.
Yeah, I think that does inspire me a lot, and I think it's really important to sort of listen to what the volunteers need and then convert that into, you know, into practice really, and I think that's ever evolving, and there's so many different campaigns that are running all the time that need different types of qualities, and that's the bit I enjoy putting people in the right places and you know, watching them grow and develop as well. So yeah, it's very interesting.
So we've got another session booked in a couple of weeks' time, and we can use that to explore what you might do outside of your current organisation, thinking about the skills that you have and who you are as an individual and where you might want to work. But I'm curious about what might you take from today?
Well, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down and I'm going to have a look at really what I'm passionate about, because I think I need to go back to that and go back to the basics and say, well, what is it that I'm passionate about? What is it that I enjoy about my job at the moment? And I'm actually going to look within my organisation, because actually I hadn't even considered staying. I'd considered looking elsewhere, but I hadn't considered looking within the organisation. So in my head, I would either be continuing to do this job that I'm doing currently, or I would be moving on, but there was no middle road. So I think that's given me a lot of food for thought.
Have you got any questions or anything you want to ask me from today?
I don't think so. I think there's a lot here that I can take away and think about, and you know, I look forward to our next session, because I think once it's settled in, I can process it a bit more and come back to you. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks.